Welcome to the Educational Leadership Podcast with Principal JL, the place where school leaders recharge, rethink, and remember their purpose. If you're a superintendent, assistant superintendent, a principal, assistant principal, dean of students, teacher leader, or a future administrator, you're in the right place. Here we mix practical strategies with real conversations, a little wit, and a whole lot of purpose. Because leadership isn't about the title on your badge, it's the influence you carry every single day with your teachers, staff, students, and families. Our mission is simple: to inform, inspire, and to help you lead with purpose. To give you tools that actually work, stories that spark reflection, and ideas you can use the minute an episode ends. So grab that caffeinated drink, a notebook, and your growth mindset, and get ready to level up your leadership one episode at a time. Because around here, we don't aim for perfect. We aim to be 1% better every single day. Now let's get to the episode. What if the biggest hiring problem in education is not just a teacher shortage, but the fact that the old way of recruiting no longer works? In today's episode, we're talking about how school leaders can hire smarter, move faster, build strong pipelines, and create the kind of culture that great teachers actually want to join. In this episode, I'll be looking at my own journey when it comes to hiring in 2026 and what we can do to get the kind of teachers our students deserve in the classroom for next year. Now let's get to the episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. Today, I am going to be talking about a topic, I'm going to talk about it every year about what's going on in hiring and education for this year. And I'm telling you, every year I'm learning something new. And every year there's just movement and the way things go. It just boggles my mind, when you're trying to hire teachers for the next year, what that looks like, what that's going to look like. For me, it's just been just kind of a crazy whirlwind of kind of what it's been like on the, hiring cycle for this year. Now, some things that I've learned so far, I've actually been kind of reaching out and talking to other people, kind of how they hire. Now, I have understand not every district is in the situation I'm in, and I'm not in the, a situation everybody else is in with their district. I understand that there's some districts out there that aren't even hiring yet. They're actually trying to get their budget set up so they can hire. So to me, that's crazy because like here in Nebraska, we have to hire. Like this episode's coming out on March 16th. I had to get people hired by March 15th so I can get people to come to my school without them not being able to get out of their contract. So in Nebraska, a lot of schools have moved up the date of committing to their home districts. So if I can hire somebody before March 15th, that gives them a chance to tell their other district, hey, I'm not coming back. I'm taking a job over in Hastings, Nebraska, where I want people to come, right? Yeah. So honestly, it's kind of been a crazy whirlwind. Like here in our district, we have people that can retire early. So they just announced like in December, you retire early and we can start advertising for your job. And so I had a couple of those this year, and we were able to get those hires pretty quickly. It's the ones that catch you off guard that makes you go, wait a minute, what's going on? I mean, you think you're going to keep somebody, and then next thing you know, they decided they are going to move on, which is fine. There's a lot of movement that's been happening within my own district. I know there's a lot of movement out there as well. But the crazy thing is things fall in place. In my mind, I look at it as things fall in place the way they're supposed to. You're going to get the people hired that you need to get hired, but you might have to think outside the box. You might have to get creative on how you do that sometimes. And so in this episode, I really want to talk about what are some ways you can try to think outside of the box when hiring, getting people in, and things like that. Because I know, like, I used to be like, let's try to get a pool of people together. Let's do a selection. You can't hold on to people's applications as long as you'd like. Because if I get a good pool of candidates, I'm going to start interviewing. I'm going to start trying to hire somebody because those good candidates will probably find another job if you don't pull the trigger quick enough on some of those hires. And so that's something that I focus on. Like, hey, like right now I need math teachers. So you guys have math teachers out there, come on down. Love to have you guys be a part of my team. But at the same time, I mean, I've sped people that I have to hire as well. And then I have to hire an STS people. And those are just some things that came up just in the last, week or so. So for me, I was able to hire a really good English teacher. I was able to hire a band director, a couple of social studies teachers, counselor, a lot of good things, and a lot of reason why these people are moving on. They're moving on because A, they want to get closer to home. B, they're retiring. C, I'm taking an opportunity to level up my career and take something that is, good for me and my family. So I really, appreciate all the things that are going on. And we have just have some people that decide, hey, I'm going to move along. And so us, it's kind of crazy because it's kind of like, hey, I'm trying to hire this person. And then this person goes out of the picture because something happens. And then another applicant comes in. Okay, great. We're going to put that person in there. And you're getting ready to hire that or interview that person. And the person you're trying to interview with that other person is now out of the picture. So it's kind of like, oh my goodness, all these puzzle pieces have been going crazy this year when it's trying to put things together. And for me, it's kind of like a big puzzle, right? I have my list of openings. I have my people. I try to do the hiring. And yes, I've had people tell me no, but that's okay. When it comes down to it, that's part of the job. And for us, we try to line up like who's our number one choice, who's our second choice, who's our third choice. Because if we don't get our number one choice, we're going to move to our second choice to try to get them hired. And we also have other districts that will reach out and say, hey, we know you had a really good candidate pool. Could you guys recommend anybody that you may think that's still looking for a job and, may need a job or is looking to make a move? And we're able to help those districts as well, which is kind of fun to do as well. When we are kind of like principals in our area, we kind of talk to each other about those things, which is really great. So with that said, that's just kind of like the crazy world of just trying to get people hired. Yes, I had some late people decide to resign their position, so now I'm gonna have to try to hire them coming up. But my biggest thing, it's going to be tough because when you have a lot of teachers in like the math and the the not social studies, but the math and the sciences, special education, those type of jobs are really hard. Even the skill technical side is really, really tough. So I'm going to talk about maybe some ways we're going to think about how to fill those positions coming up, because you never know like what's going to walk through the door. You don't know what applicant you're going to have come down. We still have some time because right now it's March. We got a good month to really start, before we still really start going, oh my goodness, we may not fill this position. But with that said, I kind of want to talk over some things that I've talked about in the past, but what are you guys doing? What are some things you guys are seeing out there as you're trying to hire? Have some of you guys not been able to hire yet because your district has the budget? First, I'd like to hear from you. Or are you guys already hiring and you're trying to like hammer things down? Like for us, we're trying to get things done by March 15th. Now we're between that March 15th and April 15th is a really, a big time for us to try to find some people, because once we hit about April 15th, it's kind of dead in the water here, but we could get some candidates in the summertime that might pop. That happened for me last year where I was having trouble finding a counselor, but the counselor showed up at my doorstep in late June. She was a great hire, but for us, we knew it was going to be a 1-year deal. And so really for her moving on, was really happy for her, but we had it early enough to where we were able to find another great candidate to slip into that position as well. So with that said, I've also noticed like I'm starting to see, I don't know if you guys are, but I'm starting to see like the teacher education programs, they're starting to pick up some steam. I'm starting to see more student teachers out there. and more people like coming into our building and student teaching and getting into education, because I think the word is out like, hey, education needs people. And I think, we're having a lot of success in the transition side, where we're trying to hire people that have degrees but go through a transition program. We have a couple programs that will do that in the state of Nebraska. I know of two for sure, one in Doane and one in University of Nebraska Kearney. There could be others, but those are the ones I know for sure that do those type of programs for those people that would love to become teachers. And so with that, one thing that we do here is we try to grow our own. And so we have a work-based learning program where we get kids being a para in an elementary, and hopefully we'll get them encouraged to go become teachers. We had about 5 students last year that did that. This year, I don't know the numbers, but we have some more kids in that boat as well. But we're also looking at this educator rising program. And so we want to start creating a pathway in our school for our students so they can start thinking about education as a career. And I think that's a really important thing for schools to look at doing, is how can they help their kids, want to become teachers. How do you have programs to establish that? And with our new curriculum director, I know that's a pathway that we have coming down the pipe in the future, something we really want to get going, something we've talked about, but now it's like, let's get it going. Let's get some things going on that end. And some things, I've done is I've hired paraprofessionals that I knew were going to be in education to try to recruit them. I did that. I was successful. I was able to hire that teacher a teacher because they were paraprofessional with me. Got to know them for the last few years. And then when it came down to it, we had the opening. We were able to interview. We were able to get those things locked in. So that worked out as well for us as well. Now, there's some different things there when it comes down to just recruiting. Recruiting is just a little bit different than it has been, because I know our human resource guy, he goes out and does all the career fairs, and sometimes he's just, man, I don't see a lot out there. I'm not getting a lot of good opportunities. They're there, but it's just not, it's been hard. So there's some other ways I think we can recruit to do some things a little bit better. Now, here's some other things. If you can get people invested in your building to maybe go become teachers, like I'm looking at paraprofessionals. If you have paraprofessionals that would be a good teacher, there are programs out there, and I know of one for sure at Grand Canyon University where they have a para to teacher pathway where you can take a para and they could become a teacher and they could go through the program. Because if you have great paras, then they could probably be great teachers down the road. So look at those things as well. When it comes to hiring, like I talk about, speed is the name of the game. You do not want to wait for months on end to try to hire somebody. If you get a good candidate pool, I remember this phone call. My HR director calls me and said, "Hey, Jeff, you have X amount of people in your pool for this job. I would not wait too long. I've been to a few job fairs. You have a good number. Start looking at those and get going." And I was like, okay, I was wanting to wait a little bit just because we knew we had some more openings and we're trying to see if we can attract a few more. But we got some things going. We're able to interview. Like, was it 2 weeks ago? Because this last week we just finished spring break. 2 weeks ago, before spring break, I set a whole week with me and my admin team and the teachers and the people I bring in for interviews. We had 12 interviews in 4 days. That's where I hired 4 people in that time frame. And it was just nuts how we just blocked up. We got to get this done because we have to get things done in a certain amount of time. And so I really appreciate my human resource director reaching out and said, "Hey, buddy, get going on this because we don't want to waste time." And we don't want to waste time, but at the same time, I don't want to go too fast, but I don't want to go too slow. It's kind of one of those, it's a balance, right? And there's some things that we thought, hey, we had some good candidates, and we've had some people back out, trying to set up things. We've had people come in late, and we're able, and they ended up becoming a great candidate, and we ended up hiring them. So there's a lot of movement, a lot of things that I've learned throughout this last year. So, you want to be smart about how you do it, but you also want to move quickly to get those hires. And for us, I didn't have to start hiring people in November this year. Thank goodness I had everything filled up for that. But I did start hiring in January for my retirees. And so I was able to get those done really, really quick. I hired my first one in December, to be honest, because I knew there was a retiree coming up, and for me to get that person in that I wanted in was really, really good. So, yeah, I had my first hire in December, had a couple hires in January, a few, and then now that week long juggernaut of interviews in that first week of March, we got some people hired up. But right now I'm sitting okay. I got about 3 positions, but a lot of those openings are for good reasons. People moving on, doing some other things, but I'm really happy for the people that are moving on and doing the great things that they are about to do. Now, we also try to do some reference checks before the interviews. If we can, you know, like it's not just myself, but my assistant principals also help with the reference checks. What they'll call people they know. We may not like read the references, but we'll know some people that would know that person or work with them. We really want to know what that person's like to work with because you can read a reference check and they're all going to be about the same. So for us to know what we're getting before we get in there, but we also can ask some questions based off of the information we find to try to dig in a little bit to see if they're a good fit for us. And, we always want to trust our hiring team. So I have a team of people that we hire with, and I trust their judgment a lot of times, like 95, 98% of the time, we all like think the same things. There's times where we did hire an AD, and that was a kind of an interesting process for us because we didn't always agree where we wanted to go with that. But that's okay because as a team, we were able to talk those things out. And then, yes, we were able to hire the person that we hired, and we felt like it was the best fit for us and the best person moving forward. So with that said, I forgot about hiring an AD. I had to do that in February. But at the same time, that's due to retirement. I really appreciate my AD that I've worked with the last, 4 years now. And now she's going to move on and become an assistant AD at the college here in Hastings. So really happy for her. But nonetheless, I'm saying like, trust your team when you're hiring because they're going to be able to, have their perspectives. But a lot of times, you'll have a good idea if you guys are gelling on what you guys are looking for in that hiring process. Now, one thing I want to really kind of bring out is the branding of your school, what you guys post on social media, how do you get the messages out, how you brand and how you do the great things that you do in your school I think that's really, really important because I'm going to tell you a story here. We're in the middle of our English panel. We had like 5 really, really good, candidates to become a next English teacher coming in. It was really tough. I'll tell you that. But through that process, I started noticing some of the candidates were talking about things that were posted online. So I knew they were researching. I knew they were starting to look into our school. And guess what? A lot of the reasons why we got some really good candidates was because they saw the great things that were going on in the school. They saw the social media posts. They see all the different activities and the things that we are doing, not just athletics, but activities and classroom.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get back to the episode.
That attracts people. People want to be a part of something like that. When they see your culture showcased out there and they want to be a part of that, I mean, that's going to draw some high quality people in. So do not underestimate the power of having a strong brand, being able to post all the great things that you're doing, controlling your narrative out there, because that's going to draw people in on your platforms. People will look at Facebook. People will look at Instagram. People are going to look at X, guys. They're going to do it. If you have content out there, they're going to look it up. They're going to see it, and they're going to want to be a part of that because a lot of people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So with that said, really have a strategic plan for that so you guys can bring in more quality people when it comes to that. But also, it's showing your culture, it's showing your classroom, it's showing your student successes and your activities and athletics as well. I think those are really important. And of course, I'm talking as a high school principal. It works as well with an elementary or a middle school as well. Post the great things going on in your building because people will want to be a part of that. So with that said, there's some other ways that we are looking at hiring a little differently than I have in the past. So here in Nebraska, it started last year, but it's really going to probably kick in this year some more, to where if you have teachers that want to teach something else, they can go and do a praxis exam or a content specific exam to where they can pass that exam and get that endorsement. And that might be something I have to use this year. I'm not there yet, but that is something I'm thinking in the back of my mind. If I need to get somebody in the classroom in this setting, could I move this person over here? I open up this job, but I may have more luck hiring this position than I will this position. So if I can get 5 people for this position where this teacher was in this position, but they moved over here because they were willing to, and they took the exam to do that, and they got their credentials to do that, and I can hire this position easier than that position, that is definitely a game changer for me that I am looking at right now. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it, but it is something I'm definitely thinking about when it comes to trying to figure out how to fill the holes. Because if I don't hire, this would be for my skill technical teacher. If I can't hire that, that means I'm going to start canceling classes. I'm going to have to start taking away offerings. And that's the last thing I want to do. I want to make sure we have all the offerings there for our kids because they deserve it. I think that's really important to think about how can you do these things, to get people in the door and in the classroom for your kids. Now, with that said, there's a lot of ways to kind of hire, and I've kind of talked about a lot of them right now. Moving forward, we talked about just the endorsement part. Teachers can add those now, which is really good. Coming in, retention, I think that one of the best ways to hire people in the future is retaining your own staff, being able to retain the staff you have, and hopefully they're happy with going on. I can't make everybody happy, but at the same time, they got to be enjoying what they're doing, right? And how do you lead is really important. If you lead a school in a way that people want to be a part of that, that's important. You want teachers to stay. And retention is, I think, the number one way to make sure you're not getting into those, teacher, burnout, and you're not getting just basically so you're not having teachers quit because they're sick and tired of all the bureaucracy that education can have. And we all know that this is a tough job. We know it's hard. People out there, outside of education don't realize how hard it can be. Some of them do, some of them don't. But this is a tough job. It's a rewarding job. But at the same time, retaining your own staff is important. So how are you supporting them? How do they feel supported? Are you giving them meaningful professional development? Are you giving professional development they actually are going to use? Or are you just wasting their time with another meeting? I think that's important to remember. Have your professional development be relevant. Have it be practical. Make it usable. It's something they can take and run with. I know one thing we just did is we did breakout sessions in February for Professional Development Day, and that was really fun. We had 4 sessions. They're about 15 minutes long. We rotate people through, and I thought it went really, really well the first time we really did that. But the teachers talked about, hey, we got a lot of good out of that. Some things we could get better, but we got a lot of good out of that because all the things that we did were things they wanted to learn about and things they wanted to have more knowledge on that they could take and use in their classroom. So I thought that was really good. So having those type of professional development is going to be really good for you. Now, having strong mentorship, I think when you can hook up a veteran teacher with a new teacher, and I don't care if your new teacher has taught for 30 years from another building, right? We have to set them up with somebody in the building that knows the lay of the land. They may be really strong at teaching, but they may not be really strong at all the things that's inside the building as well. So make sure you have that. And so for us, we have guide teachers, we have mentor support, we also have PLC collaboration. I think collaboration, if you have the ability to collaborate, that is huge. I think that's one thing that we can always say is we have collaboration in our school. We are a PLC school. We're going to collaborate. We're going to get down to nitty gritty. We're going to work together to help these kids learn. And guess what? Teachers need that. And if you don't have that and you're out of school, you don't have that, you got to figure out how to do that. You can do it at small schools. You can do it at small schools. Aaron Hansen has a book called The Singleton PLC, How to Do It. That's something you might want to check out. It's something that we utilized when I was at Southern Valley as well to kind of create our PLC teams. Finding ways, another way to support teachers, finding ways to make their job easier. If you can find ways to streamline things they're doing, make their job easier, guess what? You're going to retain those teachers. And I think another big thing is you want those teachers out in the public talking about all the great things that are happening. Because when you support them and they're doing awesome things in your building, they're one of your best recruiters. They're out there talking to the people. That's going to go around town. That's going to go not just around town, but in your area, your region, your state. Actually, we had a few teachers that applied. I didn't get one of them, but they would say, oh man, we hear a lot of great things that are happening at Hastings High. We hear all these cool things that you guys are doing. Keep up the great work. But I was like, well, why don't you just come on over? Come on, man. But at the same time, we don't get everybody, but at the same time, there is that word on the street for us. There is that piece where people hear and see all the great things. And I think a lot of that has to do with our staff is out there talking all the great things, but also we have, our social media platforms, we're branding, we're doing all these things to make ourselves attractive to people. And it helps that our school board does a really nice job. We have a really great school board. And I think that means that helps too. But at the same time, they want to bring great people in. So we're competitive with our pay. We're competitive with our benefits. We're competitive with everything you can think of. Our benefits are some of the best out there for teachers. And if you guys have great benefit packages, that's a way to recruit people in, because a lot of people are like, hey, I got to be able to support my family. I'll be able to have medical. I got to be able to have dental. I had to have all these things. And I'll tell you what, this is the dental for you. Last week, I took about a week off here because I had 3 wisdom teeth pulled off. It cost me $25. That was my dental. That was my copay. That's all it cost me. 3 wisdom teeth to get yanked out. It cost me $25. That's the kind of dental plan we got. And, that's true for root canals and a lot of other things for us. So if you can find, a school that has great benefits as well, and you have those great benefits, you need to highlight those things. I think those are really, really important. So with that said, guys, I talked a lot about, ways we can recruit, ways we can inspire, ways we can support, ways we can retain, and some of just the things that I'm going through this year in this hiring cycle. For me, it's not quite over, but I know some of you guys are getting ready out there for these things. So hopefully you guys have found one little nugget in this episode that you could take with you to help you with your planning and getting ready for next year. So I would love to hear from you if you have your own stories, your own hiring stories out there. I'd love to hear from you. What's going on? What is it like in your area, your state, or your region when it comes to hiring? I know a lot of bigger districts, maybe some principals don't have as much leeway when it comes to hiring. Maybe they get assigned by somebody. I don't know. But I know what I know. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of great people out there trying to hire great people for their schools. And so I wanted to do this episode so you have hopefully some pointers, some things you could take with you when it comes to you hiring for your 26-27 school year. So with that said, think long term, invest in your own teachers, because I think that's really important. You want to move quickly, move fast. If you have great candidates, don't wait around too long. Be creative in the process. If a traditional method is not working, you might have to look at other ways to, recruit and get people in. Network, collaborate. That's going to be huge, right? When you're networking, collaborating with people, hey, we know you hired somebody in this realm. Do you have anybody good for me you can talk about? Because I think that's important too. And then you focus on future. Then you want to focus on the culture. When you have happy teachers, they become your best recruiters. So I think those are your 5 things you really, really got to focus on when it comes to hiring for the 2026 season. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. If you did, I would love for you to subscribe to this podcast, leave a review, and I would love to hear from you. If you would love to, connect with me, you just go down and boom, hit the connect button. And I'd love to hear all the great things that are going on for you, but maybe you have some tips that you can give us that I could share out. So hopefully you guys are having a great 2026 for us, we just finished our third quarter. We're getting ready to hit the fourth quarter here, so we don't have a lot of time left to impact the students that we have for this school year. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And until next time, always be curious and 1% better. Thank you for sticking around to the very end of this episode. I hope this podcast brings value to you as an educational leader. I would invite you to share this podcast with other educational leaders, or maybe that inspiring teacher who would like to be an educational leader someday. I would also invite you to subscribe and to follow this podcast so you can get the most recent updated episodes when they drop. I would also love it if you leave a review and rate this podcast 5 stars, because that would make this podcast more discoverable to other educators like yourself. You can also follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Threads, and Substack. All you need to do is look for Principal J.O., and boom, there I am. This is where we can continue the conversations from the episodes that you have enjoyed. I am so thankful for you guys for listening. Until next time, always be 1% better.